Update. Am I the a-hole for wanting separation and co-parenting instead of working on my marriage? Original post. When my husband, 29 male, and I, 27 female, decided to have a kid, I thought we had a happy marriage and a financially stable future. My pregnancy was high risk, and with health complications, I was going to end up using up a good chunk of my medical leave before the kid was born. So, we together decided that I'd quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom for a few years, and then go back into the workforce. After our son was born, I had PPD and severe anxiety. I had complications in recovery and no help from family. I am low contact from my family, and my mother-in-law had passed away, and father-in-law had no interest in helping. My husband expected me to be a full housewife as soon as we got home with a baby, and stopped helping with anything home or baby-related because it was my job now. I was lucky to get involved with a mom's group that helped me a lot, because otherwise I was very lonely and stressed. When our son was 10 months old, I saw some messages on my husband's phone indicating that he was having an affair. I don't know when it started, but a lot of his working late was because of that. At that time, my mental health was not good, and I became scared that he'd divorce me and take my baby. My reaction wasn't even anger at him. It was as if my love for him had disappeared and was replaced by abject fear. I didn't confront him, and he didn't realize that I knew. I ignored it and tried to deal with all my issues myself while living in a constant fear of getting kicked out without my son. I know that wasn't a reasonable assumption and I have rights, but I can't explain why my head was stuck in that mode back then. I moved into my son's room, separated myself from my husband, but kept on being a good stay-at-home mom. The sad thing is that he didn't even realize that I wasn't living in our room anymore. He got home-cooked meals, a clean house, and got to play with our son whenever he was home and didn't care about me at all. When our son was 2, I got a job and needed to put him in daycare. My husband was opposed to that because he liked how things were and wasn't willing to pay for it. I went ahead with getting employed anyway, and the majority of my paycheck goes to pay for the daycare. The rest is my car payment and a very little bit for savings. Over the last few weeks, my husband has been home more and acting depressed, and I found out that his affair partner has dumped him. Now he's acting like the past 3 years were normal and wants intimacy and regular relations with me. I told him that our relationship was over when he stepped out of his marriage, and he can go start a different affair if the first one didn't pan out. He got angry about that and accused me of being a cold-hearted gold digger. He put me through agony and hell, and I'm here because I love my son and want to be with him every day, not 50% of custody, so I am dealing. But he believes he's the wrong party here. I have become accustomed to the situation, and I'm okay with us living separately like roommates and raising our son. I don't care who he dates or loves or sleeps with. If things change down the line when my son is going to school and is less dependent on me, or if I fall in love with someone else, then yeah, I'd file for divorce. If he wants a divorce, that's okay too. I've consulted with a divorce lawyer already, and I know I'll get half of the equity in our house, half of his 401k, and either child support or shared expenses into our son's needs. Living in this house with our son is just more convenient for me right now. Now he is arguing that because I didn't say anything when I found out about the affair, I have no right to bring it up now that it is over. My parents agree with him and say that since I chose to ignore the affair, it has no bearing in our relationship now. My husband wants to go into marriage counseling, but I don't see a point to that. The only 2 options acceptable to me are the status quo as is now or divorce. Does that make me an a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Please divorce him. Him and your parents are a-holes. I can't believe your parents would want you to stay with someone who cheated. I've looked into it, but it's such a messy process and I don't even have enough time to sleep. On top of that, the complication of finding another place to live. It doesn't benefit me, I think, to do that right now. But if he does all the work, then I'll just sign the paperwork, with my lawyer of course. But starting it all myself feels daunting. I'm low contact with my parents because they are like this. He reached out to them and I know they're not right, but it's hard to ignore doubts. Would I be morally wrong if I stick around for another few years so I have 100% custody and also comfortable living while my baby's so little? He's saying that me not confronting him about this affair and wanting to be a co-parent, not a wife, makes me a gold digger. And him sleeping around on his wife with a new baby makes him an a-hole. Who cares what he says? Do what you need to do too and ignore the idiots around you. Good luck. Not the a-hole. That's not how it works. He wants to go to marriage counseling? Why? For what marriage? Dude checked out for 3 years, and now he wants to pretend like nothing happened? Even if he hadn't been cheating, to be in a marriage, you have to be there. He literally ignored you for 3 years, and he didn't even notice that you were gone. It also seems a bit weird of him to call you a gold digger when the only thing he ever actually pays for is the home of the kid. I agree with you about the job. I was in a panic when I started looking for jobs, and it still took me a year to get into something reasonable. My current job is hopefully a stepping stone back into a career, and I'm trying to plan long term. I've taken legal advice and there is no alimony in my state, and a child support calculator is not caught up to cost of living changes and inflation. I can get a decent amount of money in equity of the house and 401k split, but it is possible that I'll fight on that out of spite, and I may end up spending as much on lawyers fighting for it as I might get out of it. And even that will take 2 or more years to resolve. If I divorce, the amount of child support I can get will help with utilities and expenses, but only partially towards rent. I still need a job to afford housing and half of daycare. I'd love to go back to school, but I'm not able to fund it with a baby in tow. Thank you for the advice. What you are saying is correct, and I'll keep looking into college affordability. Now for the update. We have been having non-stop arguments. I tried disengaging and gray rocking, but that didn't help. He swings between love bombing and being around all the time to yelling and raging at me. I agreed to couples counseling with the goal of having a better co-parenting arrangement. He told the counselor he still wants the marriage to work out. We had some proper organized discussion, so that was useful. We were both asked to lay out our resentments. Mine was the years of long affair, obviously. I don't think anything beyond that needs to be said. But of course, there's the neglect, the lack of help, the absence from home, and that I have to pay for our son's daycare without any contribution from him. His list of resentments were a doozy. He says that I ruined his experience of becoming a father because I was difficult and neurotic. My painful pregnancy and medical complications were unnecessary drama to him. When we agreed that I'd be a stay-at-home mom till our son started school, he was envisioning a picture-perfect home with a beautiful wife and child to cater to him. He's upset the reality was nothing like that and is convinced that I tricked him. He's a selfish idiot, but he was also encouraged and enabled by people around him who talked this up, including my parents. I've always known that my parents didn't love me much, but I have come to realize that they resent me and look down on me. The first year of our son's life, he was a bit sickly. Preemie had acid reflux, so he was clingy to me. He resents me for that too. Now that son's a healthy toddler that can run around and throw ball, he's more interested in engaging with him. The whole thing was a pretty painful exercise for me. I restarted my own individual therapy. I had made myself numb to his actions. Grew up that way thanks to my neglectful parents. It was ignoring issues to focus on my son, but my husband did a good job of opening up all the scabs. I learned a lot more than I wanted to about his affair partner too. Now that I'm physically recovered, lost a lot of weight, ironically from stress and look well put together, I'm good enough to be his partner again? Anyway, I've filed for divorce. I think it'll take a year and then some for it to go through. I'll stay here and not move out till we sell the house and divide assets. Wow, how dare you have difficult pregnancy to spite your poor husband? The man is crazy. That's the worst case of narcissistic main character syndrome I think I've ever read about. People don't get sick because of him, they just get sick. And he thinks you caused the baby to get sick too? He's really imbuing godlike powers into you, isn't he? I rarely say this, but you definitely should divorce him. His egg is cracked. I'm only sorry he has to be around your son, because I don't think he's going to be a good influence. It's good that you've started therapy for yourself individually, because you deserve to have a loving husband down the road, but I'm concerned about how you choose men. I mean, your current husband is so out there that I don't get how you didn't see him coming from a mile away. Sometimes people pick spouses who are like their parents, even if that parent was abusive in some way. I hope you get to a place where you find a good guy, because you deserve it. And he thinks you caused the baby to get sick too. No, it was more like he thought the baby wanting to be with me and not reaching out for him was something I was training him to do. I followed a certain method to hold our son right after feedings to minimize discomfort from his GERD symptoms, and his dad just wouldn't get hang of it. So obviously, the baby wants to be with the one giving him comfort, versus the dad who wanted to bounce him and worsen his gastro pains. But my husband was determined to find fault, so that has to be my fault, not the lack of care from him. Your current husband is so out there that I don't get how you didn't see him coming from a mile away. That is something I don't understand myself. We were pretty happy together before I got pregnant. He was a helpful, loving husband, very excited about becoming a father. I think your soon-to-be ex-husband is a classic narcissist, and now you see his true face. The great time you had with him together was just a mask. He is now showing his true colors, and I applaud you for leaving him. Good job, and my nosy self is so curious what your couple's counselor said to all of his BS. Our counselor tries to put everything as a question instead of making statements. At one point, he asked him why he thinks my mother, who only saw me twice throughout my pregnancy, has a better understanding of my medical needs than the OBGYN who was treating me. He kept arguing that I was exaggerating the doctor's concerns, even though I had printed notes of diagnosis and doctor recommendations. My mother has a long history of avoiding doing anything for me by being dismissive, so things affecting me are never important enough or problematic enough to involve any work from her. My husband knows she's like this, but still ran with it as, "See, even your mother thinks you were making things up." Last story. Would I be the a-hole if I didn't stay and raise an SA baby? So me and my wife have been together for 5 years and married for 1. We were trying for a baby, but we had recently stopped after she had a miscarriage. So I'll say about 2 to 3 months ago, she got SA'd. She was very bad off, would barely let me touch her and everything. I got her into therapy. She quit her job, so I've been the only income. I was very sad this was happening to her. Then 3 to 4 weeks ago, she told me she was pregnant and it was her attacker. I asked what she plans to do, and she said to keep it, and will hope I raise it with her. I said I wouldn't, and I don't think she should keep it either. My sister was the product of an awful relationship and no one ever really loved her but me. My mother used to beat her and starve her a lot. She said she wouldn't do that. I told her I'm not saying you would, but you may have some resentment towards the child and children can sense that. She got mad and said she wouldn't do that. I just told her okay. She asked again if I would help her raise the child. I told her to let me think about it. So I did, and I told her I would as long as I get it in writing, that if we ever, which I hope not, divorced, then I would not have to pay for that child. I would like the role as a stepfather rather than a real one, and that I would want my own kid as well a few years later. She said yes to the first 2, but no to the last one. Then I said it's a deal breaker. I said I understand you may not want to put your body through that again, but I want to buy a child as well, not an offender's child. I told her to think about it and let me know what you decide. She took time to think and still said the same thing, and that I will not make her have another child. I said okay, and that we can start the divorce process whenever you're ready if that's your final decision. Most people are on my side, but my sister thinks I should just adopt a child and divorce my wife. Would I be the a-hole if I didn't stay? Edit. So a lot of people are asking why are you going to treat this child like a step kid? The dad is white. My wife is Hispanic mixed with white, so it's gonna be a white baby. I'm African American mixed with Mexican and my dad is a darker Mexican. So yes, the child's gonna know it's white. Now for the top comments. She already knows if she loves this baby or not. Refusing to see a hypothetical baby as your own when you will be the only father in the newborn's life. Already treating the kid as less than. It's a rejection, since the child won't have another father. Stepfather relationships are for when a guy comes into an older child's life or aren't in their life consistently. So yes, if you will be rejecting the kid, you shouldn't be part of their life. But the way you described everything is like you are aiming at being cruel. It's your presentation, not your choices that I'm objecting to. The kid is going to very obviously know it's not mine, especially when it gets older like 9, it's going to know. So, the kid won't care as long as you have loved him/her. Have you been around little kids? If not, I'm going to tell you a story about me and my sister. So we look very different. She's a lot darker than me and has black curls. So when I was 14, she was 7. She didn't really understand that we had different dads. But she always used to ask how come my hair was a lot looser than hers and why I was lighter than her. I used to say genetics, but she used to see my dad's other kids sometimes, and she knew that something was up that she didn't look like the rest of us. So by 8, I told her that she had a different father and I just told her he died. I eventually told her the truth, but still kids notice things like that. So her, at that young age, she cared why didn't she look like me. She wants to keep it. You don't want to be a part of this. No a-holes here. Not the a-hole if you leave us you don't want to raise a child that isn't yours. Not the a-hole if she chooses to raise the child of a man who assaulted her. You are not obligated to step up. Also, don't wait on her. You be the one to start the divorce. If you wait too late, they will automatically consider the child yours. My sister thinks I should just adopt the child and divorce my wife. No offense, but your sister sounds very stupid for this comment. Sister does not sound stupid. Sister sounds traumatized. You sound ignorant. OP says sister was the child of an abusive relationship. Her mother resented her, presumably because she reminded mom of the abuser, and so mom starved her and beat her. Sister is likely empathizing with the child in this situation and is afraid that OP's wife will model the same behavior her mom did. She likely feels the child would be safer with OP, who wasn't abused. Not the a-hole. Another thing to consider is that, depending on where you live, the rapist might be able to apply for and receive parental rights, meaning he's back in both of your lives. Does your wife realize that? Also, depending on where you live, married couples have what's called presumed parentage. Basically, any child born within the wedlock is the husband's child regardless of rape or cheating. Some men have only been able to get their rights reversed, meaning they have no rights to a relationship with a child, but they still have to offer financial support. OP, get a lawyer. Any documents you all make up and sign, any verbal agreement is irrelevant. The law is typically clear on this. Not the a-hole. That is beyond sad, especially the cheating part. Our laws are so outdated it's crazy. There are literally thousands of men who have raised their children, found out they're not biologically theirs, had all rights removed, sometimes by the spiteful ex, not even through their own actions/court requests, and still have to pay 15 to 30% of their income into the child's early adulthood. The state gets federal kickbacks in putting men on child support. It's a hell of a system. Presumed parentage is 110% BS, and it's cases like these and divorces where men lose everything they have to a cheating spouse that makes men start disengaged from marriage, and it's so sad. As a married woman, I think DNA tests should be mandatory.